Hey everyone, Strung Out BGD here, bringing you guys my first review since I got back onto YouTube. If you couldn't tell already from the video title alone, I'll be reviewing my Zaoll Muse. I hope those of you looking into the Zaoll girls on Dollmore will find this overview of the doll and its body informative. Before we jump in, I'd like to warn those of you watching that there will be doll nudity, and unlike playline dolls like Barbie, most BGDs are sculpted with nipples and genitalia. While the Zaoll body's anatomically detailed parts are not graphically sculpted, if nudity is something that bothers you, you should stop watching now. So first things first, body measurements. These were taken directly from Dollmore's sale page of the Zaoll Muse. As you can see, Zaoll girls are an oddball size at 52 centimeters tall. They're taller than the average MSD, but still decently shorter than the average SD. I personally adore this size of doll, but they can be a little difficult to shop for if you don't know what to look for. I've also included details about my specific doll, such as what resin color she's in, the eye size I use in her, and who did her face up. Starting off with the head, you can see that the Muse doesn't have much head tilting capabilities. She can mostly just look down really well. Upwards is another story. This could possibly be alleviated with looser stringing. As you can see, unlike most dolls, the Zaoll Muse doesn't have a head cap, but instead a head back with a faceplate. While it is simple to remove, the faceplate is attached securely to the head back. Inside of the Muse head is pretty standard for most dolls with eyes held in with putty, but in Muse's case she has a third piece which is actually her teeth, making them removable. I imagine this can make life for a face-up artist a lot easier. She also has little notches, dips, and a magnet in her head to make sure the faceplate fits securely on the head back. I've also included a clear shot of her face. While I adore Love and Ramy, the Muse sculpt has always pulled me in the most. I'm a sucker for doll teeth. Next we have the arms. Here we see that the Zaoll body has a single jointed elbow. Unfortunately, she can't really hold her arm up very well without fiddling with the arm's positioning. Sueding will definitely help with this issue. Because of the way her elbow joint is designed, she can't bend her arm further than a 90-degree angle on her own. As for her hands, they have a pretty standard side-to-side movement as well as back and forward, and her wrist will generally keep its pose without much fiddling. And here's a closer look at the sculpting of her hand. I really like her hands, they're definitely one of the more detailed ones I have out of all of my dolls, but because of the way they're positioned, sleeves are not her friend. Moving down to her waist joint, you can see she is also limited in movement here. She can't really bend side to side too much, and she definitely can't bend backwards. She can, however, lean forward and even has locking mechanisms that sort of click into place. You'll find this comes in handy when it comes to getting her to sit, which you'll see in a moment. Down to her hips and thighs, you'll see that it's all pretty basic. No swiveling thigh joint or anything like that. As you can see, this girl cannot hold her legs up very well on her own. It could simply be because of the weight of her leg, as well as how smooth her finish is, but considering how bad she is at sitting, I'd say it has more to do with how the hip sockets were shaped, which I'll show a bit more detailed shot in a moment. Seriously, she is really bad at sitting up on her own. Here's a better look at where her thighs and hip sockets meet. As you can see, the sitting isn't as seamless as it could be. Thankfully, Reshaping Hip Sockets is one of the simpler body mods you can do. I'd say you need to carve out a small bit of resin from the outer portions of the socket where it's pushing the thigh down. I'd also say extending the elastic channel would be a good idea. If you're not into carving into a 3-figure doll, you can always add suede to the inside of the hip sockets and that'll help out immensely. Getting more into the thigh movement, they have some amount of swiveling ability within the socket, though the leg mostly likes to turn inward than outward. She's also not able to spread her legs out in this position thanks to the outer edge of the hip socket. Moving on down to the knees, they, like her elbows, are single jointed. You also find that her knees have a little locking mechanism so that they can click into place when put into a straight position. I'm personally not a fan of these types of locks since it can limit the posability of a doll's knees, keeping them stuck to either straight legs or fully bent legs, nothing in between. But the Zaoll body has proved to be one of the less extreme cases of this issue out of all the dolls I've worked with this feature. And last but not least, the feet. The Zaoll feet have great forward and backward mobility. They can also swivel and move side to side within the socket. Now, something all future Zaoll owners should know is that this body doesn't come with heel feet. There weren't even any designed for this body in the first place. So if you want your doll to wear snazzy heels, you'll need to buy them heel feet separately. In my case, I just went with Dollmore's Eve line feet, which works out pretty great because there's no need to worry about resin matching since the parts are all casted by Dollmore. As for mobility, the heel feet can't move at all from side to side in the socket. They're a bit too locked into place. Their forward and backward movement is just as good, if not better, than the Zaoll's flat feet though. Now here's just a quick little comparison of the feet. The Zaoll foot simply uses an S-hook to attach to the doll's elastic. The Dollmore E foot, however, has an ankle part that hides a hook sculpted right into the foot piece. I've always liked this type of design for doll feet, but they can be a bit of a pain to change out. And here's one last look at the body in full. I've always really loved the shape and design of the Zaoll body. Just something about it has always made me go ooh and ah. So let's review some key points. The Zaoll body, while an aesthetically pleasing and simple design, is unfortunately not a standout when it comes to posing. You'll have to use some creativity if you want to get her to do any crazy moves. Because of her odd scale that puts her smack dab between standard MSD and standard SD, she can be difficult to shop for when it comes to clothes when you're not sure what sizes she needs to wear of tops and bottoms. It isn't impossible, but it does take some research, and more often than not, you'll have to take a chance on buying clothes that may or may not fit yourself. Also, thanks to how her hands are positioned, even loose sleeve tops can be difficult to slip onto her without removing the hands entirely. Overall though, she is still a fantastic doll that makes for a great looking addition to anyone's collection. And that's it for my review. I hope you all found it helpful and informative. Murphy and I will see you guys in the next video.